I am.
And I am a young
Black.
A young black.
Young.
Black.
A young black.
Black.
Black Equestrian.
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 Black Equestrian.
Equestrian.
Black equestrian.
Equestrian.
Black equestrian.
I'm a young black equestrian.
I am a young black equestrian.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Young Black Equestrians with your hosts, Avery Johnson
And Caitlin Gooch.
Today we have Avery Jackson here with us I've been stalking him on Instagram for quite some time, and we've been like, hey, we got a podcast. Here's the link to sign up. And he's like, yeah. And then finally, we got him on here. Yes, I'm so excited. Avery is at Wild Talk, but it's, how do you spell it? Yeah, the A is a V. Yeah, I wasn't sure if there was an I, but yes, there is an I. WILDTVLK.
Yep.
On Instagram. And your work is amazing, but we'll get into that. We'll talk about yourself and then your horses first. So, briefly, tell us about yourself, where you're located, and the horses you have.
Okay, so I'm originally from Des Moines, Iowa. I was born and raised there, and then I went to school in Atlanta, and I lived in Atlanta for like 7.5, 8 years. Mm-hmm. And right now, I actually just came back after a year was worth of living on the road doing the Wild Talk work. I just came back to Iowa to help take care of my grandma. And I have my first personal mount. Her name is Lady. I call her my old lady. Her registered name is Buckhart Smithy, and she's an 18-year-old training project that was on her way to the sale barn, but I just knew she had so much more in her and that she deserved to have access to. So that is me in a gist.
Oh, that's so precious. You saved her from... Oh, well, you said sale barn, so it wasn't like a slaughterhouse, was it?
Not necessarily, but the people who are going to sale barns up here are not necessarily looking for prospects.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. That makes sense. So how did you get into horses in the first place?
It was born in me. I say that to start, it was definitely born in me. And then, when I was younger, I took lessons here and there. But growing up in the Midwest, you don't really see Black people doing much, but you definitely don't see them riding horses. Mm-hmm. And not coming from my parents, not necessarily being a part of the horse culture. They didn't really know how to support a kid who wanted to be in it. Mm-hmm. And so I got more aggressively into it when I went to Atlanta and found a crew to be riding with. And then from there, the rest is history. I just took it more seriously and kind of just invested in my craft.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. But I will say actually when I, probably 2 years ago, I found out that the last enslaved ancestor I have on my paternal side was, he was an enslaved person in Kirksville, Missouri. And his job on the plantation was the horse wrangler. And it's actually documented in his obituary when he left the plantation that he left with his horse and his hat. So, I really think it's in me.
Yeah. Did you go through an ancestral tree situation, figuring out?
My family has started doing some of it. And so it just happens that his obituary is published in a newspaper that we were able to find, and it had a picture of him as well. Mm-hmm. And I there's some complications, I think, was why it was published in the obituary. He was actually, remained on the plantation for 14 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. Mm-hmm. So it's likely that, but in the obituary, they said he was a willing servant. So I'm it kind of could have been a cover up, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's cool though. I've wanted to do that, but I've heard so many stories. I'm just I'm not ready yet.
Yeah, it's heavy work. It's heavy work.
Yes, it is. So tell us about Wild Talk and how'd you even get started on that journey?
So Wild Talk, Wild Talk initially started as, so the background, what does Wild Talk mean? So Wild Talk actually is a charge that a lot of Black people were charged with during like the Southern lynching culture. And, I was just doing some research just around like trying to understand, our own cultural makeup and in the ways that we've kind of been subjected to policing and how that's regulated, the things that we're interested in or not interested in. And I found out there was this charge called Wild Talk. And I'm like, what is Wild Talk? And it was actually like talking wild was the act of like disobeying what you knew were the rules for that given moment. Even though they were the rules, you chose not to follow them. And like a lot of them, the descriptions were like whistling at white women or looking a white man in the eyes, leaving work before you got approval, and so I really resonated with this like spirit that we don't actually get told about history around, us still choosing our integrity and still choosing to do what we wanted to do, like even though there was this completely messed up like legal structure and physical reality, we still, took control of our own autonomy. And so that's the name of Wild Talk. And so I kind of like put that name onto my own journey to just sharpen my gifts and my life work by doing what it is that I wanted to do. Because I feel like if you do what you want to do, if you do what, brings you pleasure, if you do what you feel called to do, then what you're supposed to do is revealed to you. And so to me, that was, and I found Wild Talk, found the concept of that all while like working with horses, like being in the round pen, thinking like, wait a minute. And so then it led me to a year's worth of like, I quit my job because that was not the work I was supposed to be doing. Quit my job. I mean, it was adjacent maybe, but not the work I was supposed to be doing. Quit my job and moved into my car and spent a year just like traveling the South, going to different farms, Black farms, just trail rides, like just being out there, doing the things that I really want to do. And the rest is kind of history. And now Wild Talk has, really shaped into not only a platform to like tell our stories, but a platform and a creative like impact firm to use stories to, make change, as a mechanism for designing change and designing projects and evaluating just like where we are.
Wow. That's amazing. What was that process like? Because I tell you, I say I'm gonna quit my job every week.
Yeah.
Here. What kind of did it for you? Like that decision, I'm out of here and I'm gonna move into my car.
So I was only at the job for like 6 months. I was there for like 6 months. But I had, for like the last 5 years, I've been doing like independent consulting work in Atlanta, just like with different like impact strategies, whether it was with like businesses or nonprofits. And so I had kind of left that a little bit to take on this job, which was like, was working for a social justice foundation that was actually rooted in flowing resources to the rural South. But their analysis kind of just wasn't matching with what I was trying to be on. And I think it was when I started doing the things that I knew I needed to do, like that I actually knew were the best practices or things that brought me joy, and it became conflict with the job. I was like, okay, you right. I ain't gonna fight you. Like y'all can have it. Because I realized I was spending more energy trying to convince people of my value or like of my passions and my desires and legitimize some things I wanted to do than actually investing in my craft. And I'm like, oh, y'all slowing me down. I'm trying to get to the land. Okay, I'm trying to like get my own land, and I can't be caught up in stuff that I'm not supposed to be doing. And so I would say it was definitely like spending time with horses and being affirmed very often, like, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is what you're supposed to be doing. And then being taken out of that to go back to like work to survive. And I was just like, okay, if I believed in myself enough to actually think that my dreams were accomplishable, then I'm like, I need to just take the step and do it. And so I did it. And everybody's not necessarily willing to live in their car, which I understand. But I'm the kind of person that's like, I like adventure, so.
All that is so admirable. All my critters. I mean, I got a big car, but we all can't go.
Yeah, that's real. That was a hard decision. I did have to leave my dog behind for a year, but back now.
Oh, well, that's good. That's good. What kind of dog do you have?
He's a Boston Terrier miniature pinscher mix.
Oh,
Yeah, in his mind, he's like full-size Doberman. And so we just let him leave. Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges that you face on your journey for Wild Talk?
I would say I actually did a live session this weekend. That was one of the questions people where they asked me, and I wasn't prepared to answer. But I would say that honestly, the biggest challenge has been getting over my own like self-doubt and insecurities. And you know, a lot of times like it's easy for us to like hype up other people, like you better chase your dreams. You know, you are worthy. You know, you deserve that. But as soon as it comes to practicing that for ourselves, it gets to be a little challenging. And then I kind of just like being a sociologist, like, and like really being critical of how our culture is the way it is. I realized like that's by design, you know, like by design, particularly like Black folks who are spending time in the South, like we're not necessarily being shaped to believe in ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like our everyday reality isn't telling us that the things that we want to see happen are possible. And so I constantly just have to do the work around like, no, actually it's okay for you to like hype yourself up. Like it's okay for you to like not second guess yourself. And then the other thing that I would say it hasn't necessarily been a huge challenge, but it's been something that I've had to work on in myself. It's just like the gender dynamics, you know, like not even just like Southern culture, but like in general, like mainstream culture is not always open to like gender expansiveness and gender fluidity. And I identify as a non-binary person. And so I just kind of really take it up. I mean, I grew up around like people who don't understand me. So I don't have the same kind of challenges as other people may have. And I've come from a really strong, like close-knit family. But I would definitely say it is a challenge, you know, building relationships with people. And then at some point we had a conversation about gender because, you know, I don't necessarily subscribe to like traditional expectations of how a male bodied person is supposed to navigate the world. But you know, in the horse world, it's like give or take, I guess.
Yeah. We've had, or I've heard a lot of, I guess, input on that, just because we've been kind of like doing the whole diversity on horseback hashtag, I guess, but just kind of topic, period. And I mean, that can be, it's not just racial, you know, that can be in any way, shape, or form. And I know some of the people that have come in contact with us or have reached out to us have done so not because they were Black, but just because they were like, hey, you know, I see what you are doing and I want to kind of use the model of, you know, just empowerment for the diversity within myself, whatever it may be, you know. And so I can definitely appreciate that on the whole spectrum of diversity.
Yeah, and I would say too, I think Black, or no, not I think, I know that being Black and like gender expansive and having like, you know, falling within the sexuality spectrum is very much different than like not Black and something else, you know. So like,
right.
For me, my gender identity isn't a huge part of it's more a big deal to somebody else than it is for me, you know, like, and so for me, it's more of like my gender identity deconstructing kind of how people receive me, less about trying to change how people see me, which I know which is why I think horse culture is something that I find home in, because it's really, I mean, people, especially in Atlanta, the experience is like, you are who you are. If you know what you're talking about.
Can you ride?
Yeah, we
Can
ride.
you ride? That's all that matters. Can you run the pattern?
Right.
All right. So how has kind of being in the horse world affected your life in general? I mean, obviously you got Wild Talk, but kind of in a broader sense.
So I would say one, horses definitely gave me permission to like do my work, you know. It just this gave me permission to believe in what I actually thought was possible and like go after it. Just by building up my own confidence and building up my own like skill set. And then I would say, you know, I consider horses as medicine, you know, like just like, you know, people call, you know, tea is medicine, herbs are medicine, horses are very much medicine. And I think just being in constant cultivation and relationship with the medicine, like you're always transforming. And so it's just really changed the way I'm able to show up in the world, show up in my relationship with my family, my relationships, you know, with business, with work. And to me, it makes things more worthwhile. Like I'm more willing now to maybe go work a job I don't want to work, you know, if that means I get off and I'm going to my horse, you know, so. But I think finding that thing has been super relieving for me.
Yeah, I can understand that. Because, Lord, when I get to work, I'm like, I'm not doing no extra. It's definitely a challenge. So what vision do you have for Wild Talk in the future? I mean, I know you said it's an impact firm. What does that mean and where do you see it going?
Yeah, so as like a storyteller and someone who does culture work, you know, it's not often that we are resourced to do our work. You know, it's more like that's like our side gig. Like we make art and create stuff as, you know, our side hustle. And so for me, Wild Talk is a firm that I'm demonstrating by myself right now what it looks like for creatives to believe in our skills, you know, and turn them into like business, you know, and like, because what we offer is critical to not only just like make people feel good, but actually to like designing things that are impactful. When I think about my work as a storyteller, and so I've been able to frame it in a way that, yes, I love not only just like telling visual narratives, but just like piecing together and understanding stories as it is and being able to like communicate that to someone else so that someone feels seen. But that also is storytelling is a critical tool to like impact change, you know, and to evaluate the impact that we've had and to design for more impact or greater impact. And so being able to pair my like background in like consulting and just like independent contracting with like my creative like passions has created so many opportunities for me. And so the idea is that Wild Talk, it will be a firm, an agency that, you know, creatives and cultural workers and storytellers can come and get sharpened on what our work is. And then we can be paired with businesses, projects, organizations who need our skills to do good work to sustain our lives.
That is like, you were speaking a sermon to me right now. Because I can resonate with that 100%. Caitlin, did you have any questions for him? I don't want to just blow through.
What? I know you said you just got. Oh, no, hold on. My bad. You just got your horse lady. What do you plan on doing with her? Did you say?
So I have trained horses before. I've trained quite a few horses, but most of them have been like younger horses and they're other people's horses. And so my main intention with even just getting my own personal horse was to be able to sharpen my own craft as a trainer and like as a horseman. And so, you know, one, she's 18 and green, you know, nobody's really looking for an 18-year-old green horse. But just like knowing my own limitations and skill sets, I'm like, if I'm going to get a horse that's going to teach me as much as it can teach me about training, let me get an 18-year-old mare, you know, who people don't want to ride because she acts a little too crazy.
She's already got her habits, her personality.
She got it figured out. She got the whole world figured out already. And so mainly that's my main intention, is just like me to teach her so that she can relieve herself of some of the like fear of the world, and for her to teach me so I can be better at my craft as like someone who works and tends to horses. And then, you know, we probably will, she's super athletic, and she's loving the barrels. So we might run barrels here and there. But I really just want to be able to be visible in community on a horse, and be visible in community riding a horse correctly, you know, like a horse that is like moving really intelligently, and who has like proper muscle development, not just like sitting on a horse and like being out at the park kicking it, you know, when the horse is miserable.
Yeah.
That is miserable. How do you plan on documenting this journey?
Yeah, that's the question I'm always battling, is like, how do I tell my own story, right? I started to kind of just like break down the like Instagram wall and just like post some stuff here and there. And some people have kind of got me thinking about maybe doing a YouTube series, just because there's not that many of us on YouTube with horses.
Many good ones.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, good ones. Yeah, there are some up there.
So I'm thinking about doing that. But I'm a perfectionist sometimes, and so it's really hard for me to just like do something. So I'm like, okay, I need a whole team, you know, before I can.
I feel like we're the same person.
Right. I'm kind of all day.
I'm like, why do I feel like he's talking to me?
Yeah, so it's I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna definitely start posting more stuff on Instagram, because I also want to diversify the kinds of riding that Black people are being seen do, like especially in this moment, you know, this like trend of like cowboy culture, you know, but there's like everything don't need to be on camera, you know, like everything we do don't need to be replicated, you know. And so I want to be able to show like not only just like a healing approach, but like a spiritual approach to working with horses, that we don't necessarily see a lot of Black people engaging in publicly.
Yeah, and that's why I love Nashawn, period. Like, he is so, you know, even in our episode, like, he kind of started off like kind of, you know, just working into it, and I'm like, oh my God, he's such a nice guy. And then you could tell he got so passionate about it, and I'm like, okay, there it is. It is. But even in his videos, he is so cool, calm, and collected, and that's usually the opposite of what I am when I'm on the horse. But I have been working on that. And he's just so like not what you usually see. And I feel like we've said this before, like using the word equestrian and then going to a trail ride, and they're like, "You a what? You was and I'm like,
a unicorn.
right. Right. It's on my shirt, okay? It's on my shirt. We wear the sweatshirts and the tees all the time. Like, you have got to know, this only means a person that rides a horse.
Right.
Like, this does not mean, oh, you ride like the white people do.
Right.
That's not what that means.
Right.
And even if I do, it's not like I want to ride like white people. It's like, I just don't want to be bouncing all over the place and looking crazy.
Right.
Like, sorry, I prefer to post. I don't want to be jiggling.
Right.
You know, it's just, I feel you on that 100%. And I admire the spiritual aspect of that, because people don't understand. Like, when we get around these horses, like, they're like, oh, she said they're talking to her. Oh, it's not that I'm hearing him. He say, what's up? You got food, you know, but it's a feeling and it's energy. And that's kind of what I tell people. Like, my horse, he knows, or I see the reaction in him when I'm not coming with correct energy.
Right.
And so then I'm like, you right, my bad, brother.
Right.
My bad. Let me reevaluate. I'll come back, eat a snack, something, you know, and then approach it differently. So I feel like a lot of people, I don't know if it's just because they want to be cool, or like you said, the cowboy culture is popular right now. But no, not everything needs to be on camera.
Yeah, and I would say too, like, just because, you know, because, you know, trail ride culture is different in each area. You know, I haven't been to any North Carolina trail rides yet. Okay. But I've been to like, you know, Georgia, Louisiana. And one thing that I can say is like people definitely know the spiritual capacity of horses. That's what draws them to them. That's why they work with them, because you can feel the presence of a horse. But in order to like honor that spirit, you have to be willing to undergo a certain level of like self-awareness, you know, and like self-criticism, you know, and that's just not something that our society is kind of encouraging. And so we get these people who are like outside of in the horse world, they're impatient. They're like, you know, only have two emotions, anger and happy, you know, like dependent on like drugs to survive the world. You know, like these are the same people who are coming to horse work. And if we're not facilitating their work with the horses in a way that's responsible, then that same energy is coming into with the horses. And it's like, it's not fair to the horse because the horse don't care about what you got going on, you know, like.
They didn't do nothing to you.
Right. Yeah.
Yesterday, I went and saw my horse Ardent. I haven't seen him it's been 3 months. And when I was walking to go see him, like I was just feeling the vibes. And I was like, okay, let me just chill out. Cause he started to eat his grass really fast. I was like, why is he eating the grass? Like he was chomping down at the grass. I'm like, is he about to like charge at me or something? Like the energy was way off. So I didn't like approach him. And I was just like, I'm just staying here and I'm just talk to him.
Right.
Eventually, like, he was like, okay, I remember her now. And then he came over to me. But I'm not about to touch him because I don't know what he about to do. Because it just fell off. Like, it didn't feel like my Ardent.
Right. And not only were you able to feel that, but you were like smart enough to just like, it's okay. Just because I had one intention to come out here and go right away, doesn't mean I had to move at that pace.
Right. You respect that.
To me about working with horses is being able to create different approaches and plans and be responsive in the moment. This little mare I got off the chain, you know what I'm saying? Like off the chain, and I love it, but you know, it keeps you on your toes when it's like you're constantly trying to receive how they're feeling, push them to do better, and like not stress them out.
Yeah. And all the horses, all of them in the world, they're also different. Like the 3 that I have, like the old man, I know, like when I come in the gate, to just wait a second because he's going to spin about 3 times and his tail be swishing. I've been smacked in the face so many times. And then the middle one, he's like dopey, like I'm just going to come whenever. And it's just, they're so different. So I feel like I really resonate with the people that can respect those differences instead of thinking that the horse has to mold to what their opinion a horse should be or what they should be able to do.
Right.
I can pinpoint those people, you know?
Right.
I feel like you can feel the people that actually understand versus the people that are like, I don't care.
Right.
I want to ride her right now today on a trail. Right now,
regardless of what happens.
And I don't, because you know, I do feel I don't want to make sure people don't think I'm being overly critical on trail culture because trail culture needs to be criticized. But this is like cross discipline. Like I see this like rodeos. Like you don't have to have a distressed horse to win. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we've been conditioned to kind of like write off the signals and symbols that a horse is giving us that they're distressed. And so it kind of just makes us, it desensitizes us and our own spiritual abilities to kind of feel horses, you know, emotions and responses. And I mean, I see it all the way from dressage to the trails.
We're only saying trail because that's what we have been around most recently. Disclaimer, fans and family. But yeah, I completely, we last couple interviews have been talking about walking horses. And we have one person that trains them with pads. And then we had another person that worked at the USDA under the Horse Protection Act. So having those two people like almost back to back, it was like, okay. And me as a barefoot walking horse person, I'm just like, So what's next? You know? So yeah, it's definitely not just a trail thing, you know, it spanning all disciplines, you know, the things that we do and the things that we expect from these animals definitely varies, but the spiritual connection and the respect for the being, I feel like that's not something that changes, you know, over discipline. Like you either have it or you don't.
Right.
So yeah, I'll be excited for the conversations that come from those episodes.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to listen. I've listened to all the episodes, y'all. I'll be on here listening.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
What do you think has more power, pictures or words?
As it relates to my work, I would say I need both, you know, because I got a lot to say, but you can't say everything. And that's a realization I came through the Wild Talk work, is like I was taking these images, and at first I was just like, you know, I haven't shared all my work, but I'll share images and just let the image do the speaking for itself. And I'm like, there's a narrative that can be told and become powerful if we use words with them. So I think the pairing together is super magical, especially in this moment now where people are like not trying to read, which I'm starting to realize too. Because I'll be on Instagram like, let me write me a whole essay because y'all need to, but I'm like, Avery, nobody's reading that.
Nobody read more. Ain't what it say on comments when the caption is long? It's like more.
Yes.
To see the rest.
Right.
Yeah, no, the value of reading, saddle up and read, you know, we're touching on that. We're trying to do our part.
Yes.
In that.
Yeah, and it's so important.
But even like to get into the Facebook group, like there's like 4 questions. Are you in the Facebook group? I
just got added. Yeah.
You just got added, right? They're not hard. It's just like to weed out like the weirdness and the bots and, you know, fake pages and stuff. Really not hard. And I kid you not, we have like 10
that are just sitting there.
Requests just sitting there. And I sent them a message like, hey, just answer the questions real quick and I will get you in there. And crickets. And I'm just like, okay, well, we just gonna sit. Like the value of reading, it shows up for everybody. Come on, y'all.
And that's another thing that, you know, another shout out to Nashawn. He gave me so many book recommendations. And I'm like, if we just read sometimes, you know, maybe if we just read a few pages out of a book as it relates to horses and like their being and abilities, I'm like, we would be so much further, because a lot of the information that we depend on is like, we just kind of made it up, you know? And it's like, actually, y'all, there's some stuff we can read that can tell us the truth, you know, and we can build a foundation from there. So yeah, I know a lot of times y'all work with like young people in reading, but I'm like, I'm really interested in like Black horse culture adults, you know, like taking on some readings and unpacking how it can change our relationship to our animals.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And I
know where to start. Like, it's just hard. Like, I made a post. I'm just like, what do y'all have against learning?
Right.
Like, what is the issue?
Right.
Like, we have to learn, especially, you know, some of us have children. What do you teach your children?
Right.
Because we can't with this whole, that's just the way it is. That's how I do it. This is the only thing I know. Well, there's more out there. Information is out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think it might be an age thing, honestly, because I ran into that at work. Like, I know one of the doctors made a comment and was like, not everybody can be as excited about new things as Ariana. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? Like, I'm sorry, I like to do things to make the hospital feel like we're not just treating sick patients all the time. Like, we started a garden, we tie-dye t-shirts, like, you know, social things.
Right.
And, you know, and then that comment was made and as like a response to like I got other things going on. And it's like, okay, is your horse gonna suffer because you don't want to learn because you got other things going on? Like,
Right.
you know, that I don't know, but
Yeah, it's been it's also been really affirming for me because, you know, a lot of people that I rode with in Atlanta, you know, I'm a much more humble person when it comes to horses. I'm not the kind of, you know, there's people who come in like, I'm a trainer. I can show you about that horse right there. Like, and it's like, okay. And they're usually the ones who actually need to be doing the least with your horse.
Mhm.
But I meditate when I'm around people and their horses because I'm like, I don't, you know, unless it's solicited, I'm not really trying to, you know, give you no advice, not trying to get into no arguments about you and your horse. But like, it's been really affirming for me as I've sharpened my craft by working with other people's horses. And like, you know, I'll work with the horse and then the horse goes back to somebody and then it comes back to me. And it's like being able to just have that kind of relationship with the horse. Reading has affirmed the things that I learned on my own, like through my own spiritual like cultivation. And to me, that's what's been really powerful is like, if you know horses already and you feel like you do good work, then like, you know, let's get more confident in that because you read something that affirmed what you had already found out.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. All right. Are you gonna say something? I'm about to go on.
I was just thinking about, you know, sometimes when you cook and you don't always measure stuff, kind of let the ancestors.
Like all the time?
You let the ancestors measure it for you. I'm not like that with horses. Like some things it just feels right. You know what I mean? Like this just feels right. And then for you to go and read it in a book, it definitely affirms it.
Yeah. That's like when I got my horse at 6 months old. I didn't know nothing about training a weanling. Like I just read books. I watched videos. Like I studied. I was reading all the time. I bought all these books. And, you know, we competed for the first 2 years because he couldn't do anything else. And then I got on his back and everybody's like, oh my God, you broke your own horse. And I was like, it kind of wasn't like breaking. Like he was just like, why are you up there? I mean, all right. Like it wasn't a big deal. And when I see all these videos like bucking and like, oh, this girl, it's like it's really not supposed to be that big of a deal. Hey, when you going from the ground, you know, to the back, like it's supposed to be uneventful.
Right.
You know, in the ultimate grand scheme of things, you're supposed to have that relationship that it doesn't really matter.
Right.
So I look through that lens every time I see somebody like having an issue with their horse. I'm like, just get off. Get off. And what is it that you want them to do? Can you get them to do that while you're on the ground?
Yeah.
That's like more impressive if you can do that. Like all horses can buck.
Right.
Right. And I think it's something that we don't talk about enough. I mean, I'm, you know, somebody who consider myself to be like very like land-based and like tries to be in sync with what the land teaches us and communicates to us. I think we don't take into consideration like that a horse being in captivity does not change the horse's innate like instincts. Like a horse could live without us, you know, like it actually does not need us. And then like, what does that mean as relates to like their learning practices and like our expectations of them? Because I'm definitely on like, you know, of course, like on the building a relationship first wave. And even with, you know, Lady, I had no intention on riding her. You know, like I was like, we gonna ride whenever it's time to ride, but what's not gonna happen? Because I like to start horses on bareback when I'm first working with them, and like I'm like, what's not gonna happen? We ain't gonna be, you know, riding a buck. You know, like I know I can ride a buck in a saddle. Anybody, you know, most people can ride a buck in a saddle, but it's like I'm not looking for that kind of reaction from a horse that I want to be moving towards like a much more pleasurable life. You know, but it's like when we go to these trails, when we go to even like, you know, people who make a lot of money off the horse game, these are people whose horses a lot of times like don't have relationships to them, and honestly, people are not interested in cultivating a relationship with the horse because they know they can just get another one if they have the money to do so. So then you get these 18-year-old horses that have all this potential, and somebody doesn't have the patience to build a relationship with them to be able to help them reach it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm super excited to see where you guys go, however you decide to show it. But I definitely think we need more positive examples. And I feel like sometimes when we get into like Facebook discussions on certain things, I saw somebody make the comment to Caitlin, like, you're always just trying to be so positive. And it's like,
absolutely.
I'm sorry. Who else is gonna do it? Because y'all aren't doing it. Okay. like we have to. There has to be, so many positive examples, because the negative ones are what people are gonna remember.
Yeah, and it's what's replicated. And I will say, y'all are doing an amazing job. I was gonna start saying that at the beginning. I'm like, y'all are doing amazing work, and not only just for like the horse world and the equestrian community, but like y'all really putting on for the South, okay? And y'all really getting the North Kakalaki well. And I think the culture that we are a part of, and the culture that we're cultivating is like beyond this world. And it's like we next up for sure.
Yeah. 100%.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. Because I'm like what you said earlier, like I was looking on my Instagram, my personal Instagram, and I haven't posted anything in a long time. But like you said, like trying to one, being a perfectionist, but two, trying to figure out how to get your message out kind of in the way that you want it, so that people can resonate with it and do something outside of you. Like I don't want people to see Young Black Equestrians and always have to say, oh, what's that? What are they doing? What are they doing? What are they doing? I want you to look outside of us, look past us, like, look in your own life and see people enacting change. Look, online and find other people either doing the same thing or in a different capacity, recycling or something, just somebody trying to do more. I just want people to do more. And if we could be an example of that, they're like, oh, I've never seen any other Black people ride horses. Like, honey, we're out there.
Yeah. I know it
put
really,
a face to it, but
it'd be, when I listen to conversations and, there's some people who are like, when I found that there were other Black equestrians, it's just like, whoo, like we have to be doing, and that's some work that I'm really committed to, is like, we need to be telling the stories and creating visuals so that people know, like, there's a whole Black world of people who get their life with horses, y'all. Like, we literally survive off of the passion that horses cultivate in us. And it's like, it's almost not fair that, particularly because a lot of this population is like Southern based, and a lot of it is like rural Southern based. It's like, because that's where we are does not mean that we don't deserve to have our stories told and be seen,
Yes.
And so that's, I'm really about that work. Like, let's just go to trail rides. Let's like pick a person every year to highlight and produce a docu-series about them. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I'm really into, because there is so much rich like information and like wisdom that is embedded or intersects at that horse world.
Yes.
You need to get it and share those stories before they die. Like, people die, and they take their stories, their wisdom, they take their talents with them, and then it's passed on. It's not talked about. It's forgotten.
Yeah. So you never know. I'm like, maybe we'll get a crew of people, a Young Black Equestrians crew, to like get out here and have a sponsored team. Okay, we believe in resources. Going to the rides to capture and preserve our culture. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
We align all of that.
Yeah. I'm just thinking back, like, wow, these are so many conversations that Caitlin and I have had, like, before this whole Corona thing. Like, I'm just like, we have places that we wanted to go, like specific businesses. Like, there's is he a saddle maker in Virginia, or does he have just a tack shop? I can't
Saddle.
remember. He's a
Saddle.
saddle. Just different places that
I
we.
want one of his saddles, okay?
Right. And I can't remember it off the top of my head because it was a while ago that we talked about it. But different places and like these hidden gems that, you know, how else are we gonna find out? They're
Right.
in such small rural places where, you know, everybody within a 50-mile radius might be like, oh yeah, that's the person to go to. But outside of that, you know, once they pass on, a lot of times, you know, their descendants don't follow in their footsteps or don't value the work they've done because they didn't get a degree or they're not living in the fanciest house or whatever. But you would be surprised at the wealth that these people have, whether it be monetary or not.
Right. And and to me, that's why, you know, two things. One, I feel like, you know, I don't consider myself, I'm a photographer, but I don't, a lot of times when people think photography, they think like you just take pictures, you know, and it's like, I definitely use visual content, but I think it's important that we're working with these places and these people to help them, one, not only capture and preserve their information, but to like help them realize the visions they have while they're still here, you know? And it's like, how are we working with, you know, these like smaller, you know, boarding facilities or ranches or, you know, these Black folks with land and helping them strengthen their plans and their models so that, or even their websites, they're like their own storytelling tools so that they can, you know, they can realize their vision. And it's hard work. It's hard work, okay?
These websites be looking like, I don't know, PowerPoint slides. I'm sick of it.
Honestly, and it's not fair because their work is really great. But
I know, but I swear, if I see word art one more time, Caitlin, I'm like, Caitlin, look at this. Look at this. Look at this word art. These gradients in the wave.
Even on some of the flyers for like the trail rides, you know, it's like, it's just clear that we're not being invested in to have the skills to use to
And I try to, in a subtle way, I try to be like, Ariana does flyers.
I know. I'm like, just anything that I mean, it's not even like about me, like, oh, what I do is so great. Like, no, I can bring you into 2020. Like, that's it. Like, that's the start. You know? If you want like transparent backgrounds and like splashes, like we can work on that, but I could at least get you to 2010.
Right. But that's
1990.
It speaks to the leadership that we have in these spaces. A lot of times they're not, you know, things have been going the same way they've been going for so long. They don't even really want nobody else to make the flyer. You know, like they're not really looking for anybody else to come step into leadership. And so that's one of the things I'm really interested in too, is like, how do we kind of cultivate a community with inside of community? You know what I'm saying?
Because you should have been at the meeting. That's all I'm saying.
I know, man. If I didn't have a temper on me, I wish this. So let's just say what this is. So we are part of an organization, a trail ride organization, have been, you know, our entire lives, right? And so we were like trying to create it into like a nonprofit to actually be able to provide resources, because the elders are getting sick, like they are either coming short on bills, or there's a lot of people in Eastern North Carolina, the weather, like the hurricanes and stuff, floods that area a lot. So providing a support for like extra hay or feeding or stuff, like the USEF, like they're doing their whole COVID relief. Do you think these Black people are benefiting from COVID aid from them? No, because they're not riding dressage. They're not doing eventing. You know, they don't even know those resources. And so we were trying to kind of create our current structure of association into something that would be more resourceful for these people, and somewhere we could record the history of the entire association and all this stuff. And oh my gosh, like they made it seem like we were going to take over everything and get the white man in it, and just like we were some kind of swindlers. And I was just
Like it wasn't important to us.
Right.
right, like they haven't been here. They didn't know what.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like there's a resistance to difference. One, it's like just because it's different doesn't mean that it's not good, y'all.
Right.
And then I think too, there's a misunderstanding of what innovation is and looks like, and like the usefulness of like, because like putting our resources together, that's like cooperation. That's like Black, like that's in our history. That's how we survived and have the land that we have now, because we work together. But there is definitely a gap between like the people who are in the culture who have solutions, and the people who have the access to be able to help fast track some of those solutions. But I think part of that though is too that because some people come to it as a hobby, it's not, people don't necessarily think about it in a way that's like, let's come to this with best practices, like let's come to this with what makes the most, sense. But I think that's the new guard. Okay, we are here and we're not that young anymore, like we're not babies, like we're actually like adults who can like help shift the current landscape.
Yes, totally.
Yes.
And it's a shame like y'all got all the work that y'all doing, and it's like sometimes it takes us to be recognized by other people for our people in our own backyard will see, our usefulness.
You ain't said nothing but a word, man. And I got to the point like where I was like, no, look, this is what we do. No, look, guys, this is what we've been doing. Look. And then I realized like, it doesn't matter. Like, y'all don't care. It's about like clinging on to like possibly what's the only thing they've had seniority over in their lives versus, them thinking somebody's gonna take that away from them. And I'm like, I want this to be a joint situation, but
I want to help relieve you. Like, you've been working so hard. I want you to be able to still enjoy what you enjoy, but not have to be so, overworked. And I think that's another way that storytelling comes into play is like, when you approach folks like, okay, we want to talk about you all day, and we're going to record you and we're going to make a nice video about just you. And we want to like help, make things a little better. Like we want to do both. It kind of can sometimes help buffer the intensity.
Yeah. I don't know if we're gonna come with a different approach or not, but I just told Caitlin we just gonna do what we doing.
Yes. Y'all should. No, y'all absolutely should.
And just keep it up. I know me and Caitlin, we have the same like ultimate vision, but we just have different parts of it. Like I would like to create like a green book for Black horse businesses, boarding barns, tack shops, like events that are consistently kind of in the same place. So that when people go places or, they can say, hey, I want to support, say a Black person has like a dude ranch or like an Airbnb kind of situation. Like if I want to go to Texas, instead of staying in this hotel, let me support, this kind of thing. Or I'm in this area, oh, there's a Black tack shop down the street. Like, I want to kind of create that kind of resource because even just for the horse industry, period, I don't know of anything that's kind of nationwide.
Or even regional, like
anything really.
Don't search on the internet, Black owned horse ranch, like spam, like you're not gonna find nothing.
No.
Yeah.
But I know Caitlin is really big on the history as well, and like documenting that and just creating some kind of resource to allow people to share their history, you know, because once you start with somebody, you know, everybody's got their own story.
Right.
So I just we'll get there. I know.
Yes. Oh yes, we're gonna get there soon. You know.
Yeah. But that was it was around that time that we came across Wild Talk, and we're like, see what we could be doing if y'all cooperate. Look at these pictures.
And I will say though, you know, a lot of the pictures I have from, I mean, some of them are, you know, I went with like my crew, like we showed up with horses, but there's some where, you know, I just showed up to a trail, like particularly in Louisiana, the Blessed Sisters National Holiday Ride, which is like every year, gotta be there. But I didn't know nobody going to the ride. You know, I was just in Louisiana. I had people in New Orleans, you know, but I think I found some people who ride on Instagram and they seen people on the street, went and kicked it with them at the stable. They told me it was a ride the next day. I drove the hour and a half and showed up, and I was like, hey, they was like, hey. And so, you know, now we family, and they were so grateful that I came and was able to, you know, do what I just, you know, take pictures and build relationship. And I think sometimes, you know, that's what it takes too, is like, just, like I said, you gotta leave where you're from, because sometimes people don't respect you where you come from until you come back with something that they like.
Yeah. We're gonna have so many clips from this episode.
I know. I'm like, you were just such an amazing speaker. Like everything is just like bam, bam. I'm like, yep.
I can't wait for this YBE convention.
I know. That's been a something that has popped up multiple times.
YBE convention.
Mm-hmm. A meetup,
some kind of in-person situation. But it's so crazy, like just the sheer power of networking is unsurmounted. Like it's just so. I mean, we just know so many. I mean, we got people in the UK, like people in France that are like hitting us up, and luckily I can like just read a little bit of French, but I'm just. Actually, somebody in France yesterday hopped on to the mental health clinic, and I was like, "Hey, it's not until next Friday. Like, you can't get in there now." But their registration and everything was in French, and I was just like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah.
No, we got people in the UK supporting us, and then I walk down the street, and it's like,
right,
yeah. But that's so, yeah. And my big thing about like building and scaling up and growth is like, I only build from alignment. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm past where I'm trying to convince people to work with me. Like me and my skills are very valuable. And there are people who recognize that. And those are the people I need to be seeking out and working with, people who understand the value of that or are interested in the value of it, versus convincing people just because we're in close proximity that that's, you know, what I need to be doing. And so, like, I'm like, yeah, let's talk. We're going to have to talk outside of the podcast episode, too, because I'm like, you know, I think it's really possible for there to be, like, a YBE convention, YBE retreat or meetup, you know, that is sponsored. You know, these are the kind of gatherings that, you know, these larger, you know, equine institutions need to be helping to resource, you know, to encourage diversity. These are the kind of things that the trail ride culture needs to be, like, supporting and sending young people to, because we need to be, you know, improving education. Like, that's necessary. You know, it's a shame we don't have it yet. So it's going to come, and the resources that are flowing are on their way.
Yes. You got to make me stand up.
I know, right? Like, I'm going to just play this episode over and over.
Right, like,
I need a reminder.
This goes out tomorrow.
I know, right? Yeah, so we have a schedule, but depending on the episode, we were like, no, we need this one sooner.
Right. Y'all need to hear this word.
Wait, this has to come out after the mental health clinic, though, because I don't want.
I'm gonna be there. I register.
Yes. I am so excited for that. Like,
I know it's like our first, I guess, big event. Yeah.
And like with this whole coronavirus thing, like I know that it's not good for a lot of people, but I feel like for so many, it's been like a blessing in disguise. Like the world the world has just slowed down just enough for us to catch up, with all the desires and the dreams and some of the stuff we wanted to achieve, but we felt like we didn't have enough time, or we were chasing time. But now with it slowed down a little bit, I mean, I've been working the whole time, but I'm like, the people that, commute 30, 45 minutes a day, back and forth, like that's an extra hour and some change in your life that you can do other things. It doesn't even have to be anything great. I mean, it could just be chilling at home,
Right.
or going out in the garden, or reading a book, but like just extra time in your day. Like I just feel like this whole thing is kind of a perspective bringer, and just allows some people to get that extra that they didn't have before.
Yeah.
It's funny. I wasn't supposed to pick up Lady and move her to the spot she's at now until like probably like a month or probably 3 weeks after the actual day I did, because the quarantine started heating up. I was like, oh no, I'm not gonna be on lockdown without a horse. Like, let me go pick up my horse so I can be on lockdown and be, productive in the ways I need to be.
Yeah. So tell us how we can support Wild Talk. Cause I see you have a Patreon. I don't really know how Patreon works, but I know that you got some stuff on your website. So tell us how we can support that.
Yeah, so, right now, I think the number one thing is, like, if folks are aligned with Wild Talk and want to support it and, want to continue to see the work kind of grow, I do have a Patreon where people can, like, subscribe. It's like $3 a month if you want to subscribe. And I'm going to probably start posting more, like, intimate, less public content up there. But the other thing that I really tell people to do is just, like, follow, and if opportunities that you seem like something that Wild Talk would be interested in, or there's stories that you want to tell, or you need to be like hyped up to do culture work, like just like reach out. Cause I'm a firm believer in like, the more we do the things we want to do, the more we're going to do the things we want to do, and so
feedback loop.
That's pretty much it, really. And just stay tuned. I think that, there's a lot of things that I'm trying to cook up, and, hopefully, everybody, still supports them and see them as part of the culture.
I love it.
Yes.
Great things coming from Wild Talk.
Yes. So shout out your socials and where everybody can find you, website, all that.
Okay. You can follow Wild Talk on Instagram at Wild TVLK. On Facebook, it's just Wild Talk. And then our website is wildtvlk.com. And so if you are someone who's looking for stories, looking for images of Black horse culture, you can find that on the website. But also if you're someone who's working with an agency, a business, a project, nonprofit, or just have a vision that you want to realize and think that some like creative strategy could help you get there, feel free to hit us up.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Young Black Equestrians. What did you take away from this week's episode with Wild Talk? Head over to YouTube and let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. See you next week.